everyone, I'm Ava. I'm from Singapore and we have just attempted the Everesting Roam. So just a little bit of introduction of myself. I used to race for back in 2022 all the way to the start of this year. And I thought of taking on this Everesting Roam as a challenge to see how far I can push my limits. So yeah, we did it.
Yeah,
right?
we did it.
Yeah.
Hi everyone, I'm TC. We've attempted and completed Everesting Roam last weekend. And my background, I've been doing cycling for about 8 years or so. I've done some racing back in the days when I was a bit younger, so moved away from that to more adventurous riding. Did Everesting last year and attempt Everesting Roam this year. So yeah.
Okay, so in a nutshell, I think this was one of the, in fact, it is the toughest challenge that I've ever done in my 4 years of cycling. We have all sorts of elements. We have the rain, we have the sun, and then we have rain, sun, heat. The terrains were not forgiving at all. It was really very much a mental challenge, especially in the last leg when you have not slept for about 32 hours. Yeah, it took a lot of, well, I have to talk to myself a lot to keep pushing myself and tell myself that this can be done, it is humanly possible. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much the nutshell of it. It was really tough. And I don't think any word can actually summarize what we have done and achieved here without the support of the crew and Peter and Pedal Brisbane. So yeah.
So leading up to the Everesting Roam, I followed a training plan which involved a lot of base training as well as low cadence training, which in other words would be a lot of practice on the hills to get the body used to the elevation. And nutrition is also important, like a lot of carbs in our diet, a lot of proteins, and we have to kind of eat clean. At least for me, I have to eat clean. Yeah, because you don't want to put on weight that is unnecessary, that would affect the challenge or the ride. Yeah.
So for me, this Everesting Roam was never on my race calendar. It was never meant to be on it. And I took up very last minute as a support crew. Not thinking that I was actually going to finish it, but we'll talk about that later. So I was coming back from holiday and basically I had about 4 weeks worth of time for training. I've done some hills repeat out in Mancutha. I've done about 2 lots of 200k on the weekend leading up to this big 480 kilometers event. So that's pretty much all the training that I have done leading up to this. In terms of the actual event preparation, so Peter, myself and Ava, we have an online meeting because Ava has to do exam. So this is another challenge for those who are working or studying. Things need to go online basically. So we've talked about nutrition, like what we wanted to eat in terms of like gels, in terms of bars, in terms of electrolytes and other drinks that we may need. And then we also talk about where we want to stop and have a bit of a rest so that we can recover a little bit and keep going and completing the challenge. And yeah, so I end up doing the driving down from Brisbane to the starting line. So on the Friday, I woke up around 1:15, trying to get that very last bit of, preparation done, have my coffee, and then drove and picked up Ava. So we left about, Brisbane 1:40, give or take.
Yeah.
We got to the starting point at around 2:35, 2:40, and then the first challenge was that the cafe that we were meant to park our cars weren't actually open until 5. So that was the first obstacle. And then we had to like find a place nearby so that we can park our cars and just change the route a little bit so we can get to the starting line. So we started off at around 3:30. So we'll talk about that coming up. And before that, I had to also make food for myself. I make about 4 boxes of fried rice for myself, plus my sister who is also a supporting crew. And then I had to go to Woolies and get my nutrition. So all the bars and gels, soft drinks, juices, as you can imagine, and bananas too, and bread. Final thing is the bike preparation. So we've got to make sure our chargers, like the Di2, computers, lights, and we end up doing a final bike mechanic check, I think 2 days beforehand. I personally had to go and get an 1134 cassette just to make this happen because of my lack of training and the schedule. I don't think I will be able to complete it with a 32 teeth cassette. So I ended up getting a 34, which, these are the preps we had to put in before the actual event.
Yeah, and for me, I had quite a misfortune with my Garmin, my bike computer. So for those who are thinking of attempting the Everesting Roam, it would be good if you have a backup Garmin or like a backup Wahoo, in case you accidentally save the ride halfway, you still have the other one that's running. Yeah, so that's what happened to me.
Don't know why I didn't come when I saw the break of day. I wish that I could fly away.
So on the first stage, when we rolled off from the starting point, I think what I have in my mind is just, oh my goodness, this is happening. This is real. Like, all of us are here. It felt unreal, to be honest, because it's pitch dark as well, because we start super early in the morning. And your body, for me, I didn't have enough sleep the night before because of all the adrenaline. And when we eventually when we start rolling off, I was like, okay, Ava, you need to get yourself into this. Honestly, my body only felt warmed up at the 74th km. So for the first bit, I was feeling a little bit cold. What about
you? I didn't get a lot of sleep either. I had about 3.5 hours sleep and then had to wake up early and drive down, as I've mentioned before. Going down there was okay. I did a lot of night drives, but getting the bike ready and seeing people turning up and picking up their bikes and getting ready to go definitely was exciting for me to an extent, but also it feels scary because I've done 400Ks before, but doing that amount of elevation and with very, very little prep in terms of training definitely give me a bit of a chill. Wasn't sure if I was able to complete the whole thing, even though I keep saying to myself I would make it. But it just definitely gave me excitement as to seeing everyone there to support and having a dig, so to speak. Some of the people have not done that long duration with that much climbing before. We've done 300Ks before, but it definitely feels different now that everyone has the same goal at stage 1 to ride and support. And I remember pumping up the tires and then helping Alia, pumping up her tires as well. It feels like we are really a team going in. first two climbs at Mount Tambourine feels quite okay. Like, you know, you're first starting off, you're not pushing too hard. I feel okay. I've done night rides before. But look over Ava. She's definitely not in the mood, I can tell you. I kept saying to her, and even though it's only the first 47k, I was like, okay, like we can do it, you know, we're slowly getting warm up. But Ava just wasn't super responsive until we pretty much done the first two climbs, and then we started to see the sunrise, and it was beautiful. And I think that's sort of like sunlight gives us a bit more energy now that we sort of move away from the darkness and going into more, you know, the sun. And I had to keep reminding, you know, Ava that we need to eat. Yeah, because climbing and riding on the flat in 1 hour is different. So I had to just give her a bit of a heads up and make sure that she eats, because she's the main person. Yeah.
Heart attack! Second climb done.
For the second part, I think what I was more concerned with is that everyone is remembering to eat, because it's still at the very first phase of stage 1. So everyone is still pumped up with adrenaline and excited. Sometimes you could be slightly overconfident, you know. And yeah, so that was one. And the second thing that was on my mind is that we need to be on time. We can't take our time at every stop. It has to be nutrition, top up your water bottle, get a banana or a bar, and go. So I was very concerned that we get complacent and take too long at each stop at the start. That was what I remember. Yeah.
For me, after the first two climbs, we had to stop at Canungra, and I remember filling up the water bottle with coconut water with a bit of carb mix to it. Didn't really eat a whole lot because I know we're going to come back down from O'Reilly, which is the third climb, and then we'll be good. And so I was feeling relatively confident going up O'Reilly. I was feeling strong-ish. I wasn't putting out a lot of power. The climb was gradual, but it definitely got us going in terms of like warming up our legs, and that is the first climb pretty much after sunrise. So it definitely feel very positive, and everyone sort of stick together, and it's a good environment. Everyone, you know, try as much as we can to stick together without, you know, trying to chop each other out. So that was good. We didn't put a lot of lactate and pain through the legs. Yeah, that's pretty much all I remember. Oh, I do remember now. Coming down. Yeah, I think, was it coming down?
That I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I mean, coming down from O'Reilly, it was. So what happened was we end up breaking up into kind of like two groups, and for whatever reason, I was left behind. So everyone went and got to the stop at Canungra and start having their feast and drinks and rest. And then there was myself and Alia stuck at the back, and we were going back at a pace where I was not comfortable with, I would say that. And it felt like I was burning matches. Like that was the time where I feel like, okay, my legs were starting to hurt on the way back to Canungra. And I thought, oh, okay, this is really happening. This is really happening now. because you start to feel a bit more lactate in your legs, and you start doubting yourself. And that's probably what I remember. And then we get to the next stop at Canungra, we eat and we start filling up, and yeah, that's it.
Climb tree done.
Yep.
And it took them a while to just make it, and I was like, oh man, God, I was in a hurry.
You know what? I'm always thinking. 2178 so far.
We got 4-5.
Come on, guys. Easy.
Looking great, Dom. Looking really good. My man.
So we definitely take a bit longer rest at the second stop at Canungra, because we didn't stop as long after the third climb up to O'Reilly. We did feel a little bit, but there was a bit of miscommunication. So it ended up the group splitting apart. And so, as I said before, there were like 4 of them just on their own down to Canungra, and then myself and Alia were left behind, so to speak. And so we end up taking a bit of a longer rest, people filling up, and I definitely had a fire ice because I was just so tired. Going back to Canungra, the headwind definitely made me feel a bit, not nauseous, but tired, fatigued. And so we decided, okay, we're going to go to Binabura, take a shorter rest, and then continue. And going up to Binabura, it's very hard for me. It's definitely very hard for me. I definitely wasn't feeling the best of myself. So in Binabura, it's kind of divided into 3 segments. You have the first 5k, which is quite steep, and then you got a little bit of rolling hills, about 10k or so, and then another like maybe 3k's, quite relatively steep towards the end. That first section, everyone was hammering it a little bit, and I was dropped towards the end. I was the last person essentially, and I see Ava ahead of me, and it's starting to get hot, and I thought to myself, oh gee, okay, am I going to make this? Because I've done this before, I've done Binabura before, but that was not what I remembered, I'll say. And I see Ava sort of like pulling away, but still within distance, but I was worried that, because I remember Peter said to me, if I was like 10 minutes behind when they reach, then I will get eliminated basically. I've been jumped into the car. So I was working very hard trying to get myself within like the distance. It wasn't far, it was like maybe like 15, 20 meters ahead. But it gives me that fear of I won't be able to finish within that 10 minutes margin. But because it was so hot and my back started hurting, and the fact that I had to like hold on to the top end of the bar, and just makes me feel very like tired and fatigued and sore in the arm. But I managed and kept out with everyone until the end of that, like I guess the end of that part 1. That part 2 was just rolling hills, which is fine. And then part 3, I managed to stick with the group. So and I have my nutrition as well. I've got my coconut water with carbs and electrolytes, and some bars and gels as well. So it kind of saved me. But towards the end of that Binabura ride, I was very, very tired. I think I got off the bike feeling a bit frustrated and a bit lost, not sure if I can continue. And I just took my helmet off, literally just lie down there, arms are across my eyes and my head, and just want to switch off. And I think that was the moment where I was a bit concerned. You know? Yeah, and then we had a bit of a longer rest there. But what do you think? Like, how did you feel after that on the Binabara ride?
I don't remember much of that. I just know that I can finally feel the sun on my back. I mean, coming from Singapore, so I was like, every day is cold to me until I feel the sun. Okay, so maybe I won't say that after a year. But I don't remember much with that climb. I only remember that I needed to eat a proper meal. Yeah, because I could feel that the bananas, the bars, at that point of time I still wasn't eating gel yet. But the bananas and bars are not enough to sustain the efforts that we are doing. Yeah, so I knew I needed to eat. So that was it.
Well done, James. Feeling good?
Good, yeah.
So pretty much we took a longer rest again at Binabora. We start going down to Springbrook, and on the way there, there were a bit of a rolling hills and exposed sun. I would like to say that my ass is sore. I've got a set of soreness, and it was quite painful. Like it definitely put a bit of a hit on my confidence, because it was so sore to the point where I need to reapply chamois, and it does take a bit of, like, you know, confidence away from continuing, and not continue but like completing it. And yeah, so we start doing a bit of rolling hills to Beachmont, and I was kind of like in between front and back and front, not because I was pushing it, but just naturally I was a lighter person, so up on the little rolling uphill climb, I just fly a bit, and then going downhill, all the big boys would like come across and roll faster than me. So there was a bit of a forward, backward during that part of our ride to Springbrook. And as soon as we sort of finish at Beachmont and going into Madraba, people start getting a bit more
Excited.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's probably the right word for it. And so there was a bit of a pacing going on, and this is the point where I really struggled. I remember very clearly there was one set of light that saved me, because as we were coming up to one of the rolling hills, there was a set of lights. It was green at the time, but then I was at the far back, and I thought to myself, shit, if these guys are going to roll through that green light, I will not be able to catch, and that will be the end of me, because I just feel so fatigued, where everyone else seems to have a second pair of legs and just kept going and, you know, smashing it. And then one of the boys, you know, fall back, and it was like encouraging me, and it kind of pulled me back into the group, which I was very grateful of. I think without him, I would have been done by then. I was just like, I can't do it anymore. So he pulled me back, and I was very grateful. But he's also the person who had pretty much destroyed the whole pace.
Oh no, yeah.
He, from his word, he was like, I just want to get the rolling hills done and over with. So he put a bit of a pace and effort in as he's going up those, you know, little incline. and it was not fun, I can assure you. I got to the point where I sort of start thinking like him, where I'll power through those little incline, putting 400-500 watts, and just to get over those and get to the next stop. It was hard, it was painful, and we got to the point we had the next stop, and I think I should let Ava talk about her feeling towards this too, because there's definitely some heated conversation. I should put it that way.
Yeah. So for people who are doing long rides, especially for Everesting, you don't want to power through and build up lactate in your legs. You don't want to be going at 400-500 watts, even if it's just rolling hills. So when I saw that bunch going up at that pace through the rolling hills, I dropped back and I refused to follow the group, because I know, based on my training, that this is way beyond my pacing and threshold for the whole ride. And I was just looking at him, and he was hammering through the rolling hills. I was like, what are these people thinking? And there was definitely some conversation that went on, and I was telling the whole group that, look, this is not the wisest thing to do, because we are not even into the 200 km at all, not even 180. Were we 180?
I think we would have, just below that. I think we would have been around 160, maybe just under.
Less than that.
Maybe 150,
yes,
something like that.
Yeah.
So we are well under the distance, and we're well under the elevation, and we are doing 400-500 watts of 30 seconds effort, like we were doing interval training on a 1 day period. Like it was definitely not the way we wanted it to go, but at the same time, taking it back to me, I was really struggling, and I don't have that patience to sit on the little 200-meter incline on 180 watts. So again, my process of thinking was, I will power through, because at least I will have that momentum going downhill and just help with a bit of a speed. I didn't want to put out that much effort, but seeing that everyone was going hard,
not me.
Seeing that everyone was going hard and I was at the verge of getting dropped and having to pull out, I was like, this is it. I'm going to burn the match until we get to the next rest stop. I also thought to myself, this is sorry for the language. This is but we can't keep going like this.
Yeah.
If the two of us were to try and attempt to finishing off Everesting Roam, knowing that there are still maybe 7,500 of elevation to complete in the next 24 hours and whatnot. Yeah, so we had a bit of a conversation with everyone just to get that idea across and come to the conclusion and the consensus that we will have to stick together and we will have to ride as a team to complete this. So no one do stupid things, essentially. Yeah.
Okay, so going up to Springbrook, it was quite a long climb, close to 20 km, and it felt like I was going back to my racing days where Peter was handing us bananas from the car. It was kind of cool. I liked it. But the temperature dropped drastically. By the time we have about 5 km left, it was literally like riding through silent hills. You know that movie? It was suddenly everything looks haunted. It was foggy, it was quiet, visibility was low, and I'm like, am I dreaming? This is so weird. It was a weird feeling, and you could literally feel condensation of the mist on your body. I was like, wait, Ava, is this real? Is this real? And I keep telling myself, I kept looking at my bike comp to count down the distance to make sure that we are heading to somewhere, because it really felt like we are heading to nowhere. What about you?
I have a very different feelings to you, Ava, because so me and Ava, we did one of the trial for the Everesting Roam, and this is the exact route that we have done.
Yeah.
And just to give you a bit of a overview, Springbrook, the first 15 kilometers is relatively gradual. It was like around that 3, maybe 4% average. So it was really gradual. It wasn't anything sharp and steep. For me, it was like, I wouldn't say a walk in the park, but like it's definitely in comparison much easier than the last two that we have done. So that 15 kilometers, I was ahead. I was sort of leading the group, and I felt okay. I'm starting to recover a little bit based on what I've just said about the other two climbers. And I had a sticky banana. I love that. I really love that.
Racing!
Yeah, give us that vibe of like racing, and it was fun. And yeah, that 15 kilometers going up to the fudge shop was relatively easy, I would say. It wasn't anything, that is gonna kill your leg, so to speak. But after that is the big challenge.
Yeah.
So we just had a little stop at the fudge shop just to get some water and gels and bars and all that, and then we kept going. And then Alia, one of the other girls, she put in a big effort crossing over, and me and Dom, we were sort of looking at it and be like, okay, not that we can chase up and close the gap per se, but we have the legs to go on. And so I continue with Dom, going up a bit of a 14-15%. I remember looking over my Wahoo, I think it was reading 20%. And because I weren't doing zigzagging, I remember, in our training trial attempt, I was doing zigzagging because I just came back from training. Came back from holiday. And so I was going straight at 20%, like up. And I was like, oh, okay, am I supposed to be feeling strong with this? And I forgot how long the rest of the 5 kilometers were. And I was like, oh, I'm sure we'll be done soon, right? And then sooner rather than later, I can definitely feel my legs, burning. And then I get to a point where we need to turn right to go to the best of all lookout. And that's when it started to get really foggy, as Ava mentioned before, it feels like Silent Hill. The visibility is very low, and it's definitely getting cold. According to the other support car, it rained maybe like 10-15 minutes before our arrival, and it was like raining a lot. So the water evaporates, and that's why it was so foggy. There were still cars coming, down from the best of all lookout, and it was hard. It was hard, going from maybe mid-20s temperature to like just under 20 degrees. That drop of temperature and the fatigue, it starts getting to us. And by the end of the best of all lookout, we were just exhausted. I think some of us have a change of jersey, so I definitely changed and switch it out, and so we felt a bit more refreshed. rather than a damp jersey.
I rode with the damp jersey.
Yeah, I had
I
a
was
clean,
freezing.
dry jersey, so I felt a tiny bit better. But yeah, I remember one of the boys were, sitting in the car, eyes closed, he was going to sleep. And then I was sitting on the other car on the front seat. I was like, this, like, I'm so done. I just think to myself, this is just a bit too much. This is out of my capabilities, and yeah, that was probably one of the other hardest ones, like
yeah.
mentality wise.
Yeah.
Because it was such a long climb.
20 km about.
Yeah, 20 km, and also the fact that it was just so cold up at the top.
Yeah.
Which we weren't expecting.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So going up towards the border, I think everyone kind of had a bit of recovery. So the overall vibe was a bit more cheery, probably because it was past the halfway mark and we kind of had enough nutrition to get us by. I don't remember much except that we took a very happy photo at the border. Yeah, but after that, the descent was, oh my god, because it was getting dark, and I remember telling myself that we need to reach the bottom before it gets dark, because the descent is crazy. It is steep, it is not forgiving, the roads are wet, and I had to keep telling myself not to look to my left because there is nothing. After the road, there's nothing. Like if you look to the left, your bike is gonna go to the left and you're gonna go down the mountain. So it was quite mentally challenging after we took that very happy photo. Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about your incident with Carmen?
Oh man. Yeah. So whoever, I have to say this again, whoever want to attempt Everesting Roam, please remember to have a backup Garmin, because when I charged one of my Garmin, somehow or another, it saved my ride halfway. And it was supposed to be 200 km, but I don't know why it was recorded as 197. So yeah, so when one of the support crew was helping me to charge and realized that the Garmin kind of reset itself, he was so shook.
She been shocked.
Yeah, shake, shack, shook. And I don't know why I had a bad feeling that something like this would happen. So I was kind of relieved that my second Garmin that was in my pocket was running well. So yeah, that was kind of something that I anticipated, and it really happened. So
honestly, I don't remember much from the best of all lookout to the border. I think my energy level has definitely gone up, thinking that we've done majority of the harder climb on day one, so it kind of just sort of like fly past, and it started raining, and James definitely put in a lot of effort in the front, keeping us all together, so big thank you to him here. And we got to the border, took a photo, got a few refuel with gels and bars, and we just kept going. And I was the last one to descend because I forgot why. Don't ask me. But what happened was, it was sketchy, it was raining, it's starting to get dark. I was the last one to descend, and then I remember looking over my Garmin, we were like, the descent was about, between 10 to 30%, which was the original route that we were gonna climb back on,
Yeah.
and I thought to myself, we have to do this tonight, huh?
Oh.
Huh? Like my brain just go blank. Like I was so scared that we had to like climb back up that route, and I was just not ready for that. And believe it or not, I got to the bottom of the descent. There were no one there.
We all left?
Yep, they all left. So, and I was thinking to myself, here we go again. Here we go again. We're gonna burn matches. And I want to add in a little bit of thing on at the best of all accounts. So the other support car told me that my light wasn't working.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I thought to myself, wait, what do you mean? Like it was working fine before. And she told me she dropped the light into the coffee. And so I was like, oh, this is going to be a great night. And as you can tell, it's starting to get dark. It's raining. The road was a bit sketchy. There were a little bit of potholes here and there. And you know, I was like, okay, we'll just have to play with what we've got. And I finally caught up with Ava and the others, and we just kept going, well knowing that Alia and Dom were at the back. And yeah, and we got to the point where I looked over to Ava. I was like, are we going to keep going? Or are we going to turn back? And not turn back, but like, are we meant to like slow down and wait for them to come back? And so what happened is we decided that, well, we have a chat with the support crew, and we decided that we were going to keep going.
Yeah.
I had to call the other support car to come back because I have no lights.
Yeah, it was already dark.
It was dark and there were no light, nothing.
And it was bucketing rain.
Yeah.
I think for the whole of stage 1, this part was the hardest for me mentally, because from Tongwin, yeah, it started raining. We had cars who were rushing home. It started raining, visibility was low, and we needed to get everybody back together in the group as well. So the rain was, and the wind together with the rain makes it it makes it harder than what it already is. So that was really quite mentally draining.
Yeah, much harder.
Yeah.
Because of the rain.
Yeah.
We had one of the support car at the back of all the riders, so that gave us a bit more extra light to keep going. But it was definitely the last thing that we hoped for. But safe to speak, everyone arrived to Tolman safe and sound. However, it was not the best time either, because we were basically covered by forests, and if you have done that ride before, there was literally no lights at all. And because it was quite hot during the day, with the raining on the road, it vaporized the water, and so it was actually again starting to get hot again and quite foggy. And it was a long 5 kilometers, just darkness, and the car light basically it's all we can say.
And there were toads. You were calling out the toads for some reason.
Yes.
He was calling the toads his friends. Like, I was like, is this guy out of his mind? Is he going crazy?
To my defense, the toads were the most alive things that I've
I ran
seen.
over two toads.
Yeah, she wasn't very nice.
Yeah. I was like, oopsies, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but like those were the more alive beings on that last
Stretch,
five kilometers.
Yeah. Oh.
And basically, that was the most interesting part of riding at night.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So after stage 1, where most of our friends went home, we had to come together to make a decision on whether to continue with the original plan, because clearly it stormed again, and we know that to go back up the same route and the descent, it would be way too sketchy in the dark. So we had to prioritize safety, and that would mean that even if it takes a longer distance, we would rather take the flatter option. At least we kind of don't need to have the descents, and then we can continue clocking our elevation back in Brisbane. Yeah.
Yeah, so the descent coming down from Tolman was definitely very, very sketchy. The rain, and there were maybe a few like sharp left or right hand bend, which we weren't very comfortable with climbing back up. We thought we had our dinner and then we just sat down and have a more thorough thought about it, because number one, it's storming. 2, it's raining, and 3, it's definitely not the route that we want to do while we are super fatigued. And lack of sleep. We don't want to go down or crashing, so we had to make the, I guess, safest option. And so we decided that we will take a small little rest, about 2 hours or so, give or take. And then we'll start again. So there wasn't any shower. What I did was there was a toilet, don't get me wrong, somewhat well equipped. So I just sort of like took off my jersey and I used
splash water.
Splash
That's
water.
what I did.
Washed my hair, kind of. Didn't use any shampoo or anything, but it was enough to sort of like get the sweat off me. And then we just took 2 hours of rest
To refresh ourselves,
and then we kept going again. And throughout that 2-hour rest, it was storming. There was thunderstorm, and
we had McDonald's though.
Yeah, we had McDonald's, but we knew it was the best option for 2 of us.
I initially wanted to keep on going, but seeing how my teammate needs the rest, I felt that was the wisest option to take. And I feel that after I can't pronounce this word. Tomwin. Okay, after Tomwin, the part that was actually tough for me was the ride back to Brisbane from Gold Coast at night with just the 2 of us.
I think partially because we took the 2-hour rest and it was cold and raining, we didn't really have a good level of warm-up before we hit the road again, which, would probably be something that everyone in the future doing Everesting Roam will have to consider, is that it will take a bit of time for them to start warming up again and get the legs going. And one of the harder part was with the support car. It's not the easiest to follow either, because the drivers were tired, and having to keep a constant pace is very hard for them, especially coming down to like those a bit of a rolling hills. And we were doing about 32 to 34 k's an hour just on that very first bit after the rest, which in my experience and in my opinion is not the wisest. It was tough because it was cold, and I can see Ava, she's just not quite warmed up yet, and we have to like constantly
keep the pace in order to kind of like shorten the pain. As weird as it sounds.
And we gotta always like check with each other and make sure that she's okay. And I was holding the walkie-talkie and just report back to the car to see if the pace was okay, if I wanted to slow down. And they did a very good job.
Kudos to the support crew.
And probably this is one thing that if there were support cars, being able to communicate the needs, it's super important.
Yeah.
But
So,
yeah,
the radio works.
that night ride wasn't too bad for me. I think it's more so the rain and just not warmed up.
Yeah.
If it was like during the day, I think we would both feel a little bit better.
I had cup noodles to save me.
Oh yeah, so mind you, guys, if you're very tired and you're Asian, maybe instant noodles will be your go-to.
Yeah.
I probably had a lot of Red Bulls, and I had some instant coffees, which kind of helped out. I start opening chips as well, getting some salt in. So I think that definitely helps in terms of like flavor wise, because we have been eating, at least for me, I've been eating a lot of gels and chocolate bars already and fried rice. You kind of get sick to it. So having something a bit of extra flavor can definitely, help with, the mentality, freshens you up as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are probably the two big things that we get to use. And one very lucky thing is when we went to Eagle Bee, the Macca's, their bathroom was opened. Thank God for that.
It wasn't Macca's that's open, the bathroom is open.
Oh, the bathroom is open because I needed to go to do number 2, if you know what that means. And it was just good at the right time, at the right place, and support crew needed to rest and having to go to the bathroom as well.
Yeah.
So we were very lucky in that case. And
I caved in and I needed a massage, so I had to use the massage gun. It was just to get some lactic acid out of my legs, and then we continue. We had to meet Adrian.
Hey, legends! Woo! Look at you go! Okay, how many kilometers in, Ava? 370. What's your elevation? 7,000 plus. And how much sleep have you had? It's nuts. So what's going through your mind now? We're 30 kilometers, 40 kilometers from Cootha?
Want to survive now.
Want to survive. I bet.
I hope so.
You will, you're smashing it. Now what's the first thing you're going to do when you finish?
Shower and sleep.
Shower, eat, sleep, in that order?
No, maybe not even yet. I just want to sleep.
Fair enough. Oh well. How are we feeling, team?
Huh?
How are you feeling?
I'm very cooked,
Cooked?
very tired. I just want to get it done and over with and have my first beer.
Yeah.
The sun's only just coming up and you're thinking of beer.
Yes,
Excellent. Oh,
early bird for the early work.
good.
I think that whole bit from Gold Coast back to Brisbane was actually quite challenging for me, even though it's the flattest part of the whole challenge, because of the lack of sleep and that I was starting to feel a little bit sick because I was drenched with the rain and feeling cold, shivering. So that part was really hard for me. And very soon, we kind of had help from Adrian. Thank you so much. Yeah. So Yeah, and we had to part ways with the support car as well to let the support crew have a little bit of get refreshed themselves. And we headed to Mount Gravatt because Kuta was raining at that point of time. So we had a slight tweak of plan and we went to Mount Gravatt. And I almost bombed at Gravatt. I remember my body screaming out for carbs. He was going strong. I could see he was kind of like steady on the climb. We had 2 laps at Gravatt. He was steady on the climbs, but Adrian was beside me. He was offering me sour worms.
Yeah, the sour lollies.
Yeah, I needed the sourness to wake me up, but even then, I knew my body was crashing. I was telling myself I need to eat. Like, this is the first time in my life I had to scoop fried rice with bread. Guys, that was the most Asian way of eating fried rice, you know? Like with your hand. I didn't give a about how I look to other people who was probably staring at me, thinking of why is she eating her fried rice with bread? But I knew that I was at the verge of like bonking and I needed carbs so badly in my system. So yeah, guys, really, when it comes to Everesting, just get ready to be ugly.
And I think because we were tired after the first day and the lack of sleep, and then having to ride back to Brisbane, I for sure had started forgetting when to review myself, like when to eat, when to drinks. You know, when I was riding flat, I was like, okay, this is okay. Like, I don't need the gels and the bars, but that's probably one thing you got to really remember is that, well, for me, if I were to do it again, I'll definitely try to remember myself on the day to keep eating, because that second day, I definitely did not eat enough. And we came to a point where we look at our time like, oh, it's already 2.5 hours. We haven't stopped yet. We haven't taken any rest at all. So that's, to us, may have been the reason why we felt the extra fatigue. And almost bonking. As much as she thinks that I am going strong, when I was at Mount Gravatt, I was definitely feeling fatigue. I don't know whether fatigue is even the right word for it.
There is no word to describe how you feel at that point.
It was very, very tiring, even though like she may have seen that I still have power to push through, but I think it's more the determination that, I want to get to the top, have a rest. And if you look back through the videos, you will see how fatigued and tired I am as well.
Yeah. And I think going to Kuta, it was so motivating to see our friends there waiting for us. Alia sitting on her jeep and like, coffee! And then we have Winter, we have Lynn, and many others, who, like Daniel, who came to support us. That last 6 laps at Kuta, I kind of felt like my legs came back. Yeah, it's just that there was torrential rain. Rain again. And that was kind of like mentally challenging, and I told myself that this is the last bit, I must get it done. But my Garmin died again.
And it's raining. Go back.
I had to ride, literally, I had to ride with the power bank charging my Garmin at the back. It was such a sight to behold, yeah.
The decision come.
I was like, and the worst part was, I was just looking at, before that, I was looking at the elevation and I was thinking to myself, why is it that every increase in 1 meter felt so long? Do you feel that way?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my god.
So, very much after Gravet, the only thing that I kind of focus on is the elevation.
Yeah.
I literally just zoom in on the elevation numbers, hoping that it will go faster.
Yeah.
Like, just clocking 1 meters of elevation is like 1, 2, 3.
Time stood still.
I start counting how quickly it goes, which is, I think at this stage, no amount, I said this before as well, like to Ava, no amount of Red Bull, no amount of Coke, no amount of bread and fried rice or chips or whatever gels, cram fix you can have, will fix you basically.
Yeah.
It will comes down to your determination,
Yes.
your will of finishing it. Like seeing your friends there will give you a bit of a goosebump. Yeah, I've got friends here supporting and driving you to the finish line. But at some stage,
It's all just you.
you have to make that decision of, does not matter how long it takes, I will finish it. And we were lucky because time was still on our hands. We had probably like another 5 hours
before the cutoff time. Yeah.
Exactly. So we had the time in our hand, but we had to make that determination and will and resilience to tell ourselves that we will make it.
Yeah.
We will finish it because I wouldn't say we're made of it, but we will make ourselves to be the champion.
Yeah.
And yeah, that last 6 laps of Kuta was tough. Isn't
even
the right word.
Yeah.
It's not the right word to even describe, because that heat, like the sun and the rain,
it really plays a lot. It just plays with your mind. Yeah, for a moment you're hot, the next moment you're freezing. I just told myself that this is it. Like, I'm gonna cut out all my emotions, all my thoughts, and I'll just focus on the elevation. And I found all my legs in the final lap on Kuta. I was smashing through the hills, trying so desperately to reach. I had unfounded energy in my legs. I do not know where that came from. But Adrian was with me and he was like, I was flying through the last bit because I really wanted to finish this so badly. So I guess this is something interesting, like when humans get pushed to a limit, then you have unfounded willpower and energy in your system that can actually drive you further than what you think you can do. Yeah. Okay, so when I finally finished the whole challenge, I remember sitting down at Kuta. I felt accomplished, but I had no energy to feel accomplished at all. I sat down there with my hands, my head buried in my arms. I can't even say. I sat down there with my head buried in my hands, and it felt surreal all over again. It felt like, oh my goodness, we finished. We finished, but my body was confused, my soul was gone. I left it at Springbrook down the descent, and everyone was just waiting to make sure that I'm okay. Yeah, it was weird. It was a very confusing feeling. How about you?
I was very happy, I have to say. once I was done, I was just so glad that it is finally
Over.
over.
Yeah.
I mean, as I said, earlier in the interview, it was never on my race calendar. It was never on. I was never going to do it, but it just so happened I thought I would support, and somehow I thought I pulled a miracle in finishing off, and I was very happy, And I think to myself, it's probably like the last 8 to 10 years of cycling that sort of helped to build up that resilience and that will of climbing and completing it. It's tough, but I think in the back of my head,
You can do that.
I think more so, not I think, but more I want to finish it.
Yeah.
Even though I said I wasn't sure if I can make it, and Ava on before the ride, she kept encouraging me that I can do it.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry because I've seen you've done great things before.
Yeah.
And and I was just so happy that I finished it with the support crew, with all the people that are my friends, and
So this is a message for people who are thinking of attempting the Everesting Roam. First thing first, do not doubt yourself. If you want to do this and tell yourself that this is something that you want to achieve, as a memory, part of your cycling journey, do not doubt yourself. But of course, you have to put in the work as well. You have to put in the training, you have to go for your long base rides, you have got to be fearless on the hills and try to be as fearless on the descents. And also do not shun away from rides that probably might get you wet. Having said that, that doesn't mean that we deliberately go out to ride in a storm. But for example, we are out riding and it rains, just tell yourself that such elements are part of the challenge. So this is something that you have to be mentally prepared as well. But I think what really helped us is the fact that we had our friends who powered through with us on stage 1 and stage 2. It's so different when we were just alone, going back from Gold Coast to Brisbane. Having, to see Alia, Haas, James, Dom, Adrian, Winter, Lynn, people like that coming in to egg us on, to also show us that, they are also part of this challenge as well. Having to go through all the elements, emotions, facing the elements, it really, really, at least for me, it really was a huge motivation.
Message probably for people attempting Everesting Roam is that you have to believe in yourself. There will be a lot of noises when you are halfway, or maybe even the first 20%, but when you're at that stage, you got to tell yourself that you have done the work, you have to believe it. It may be a long day, it may be a long journey, but every step that you put in is one step closer to your goal. So, and part of it is you have to enjoy the journey as well. As much as you look forward to the end, you have to somewhat enjoy the journey. And I think that's like one of the biggest take-home message. You can't just look at, I've done Everesting Roam. You also have to do it in a way where you can enjoy part of the pain and the challenge as well. I would say I'll do it again, but maybe with a bit of modification. Maybe on a better sunny day.
Yeah, maybe not. Not
yeah.
storm. We had storm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And definitely we might need to tease out a little bit more the rest stop and like the sequence of the climb itself.
And the pacing.
Yeah. Having to do, back-to-back tough steep climbs can be quite challenging. But yeah, it's a learning process, we managed to pull this off, and I'm sure there will be different routes and different options to it, and never say never. There will
Yeah.
definitely be bigger opportunities, and
Fighting!
Everesting Roam!
Woo!